What happens when a country music superstar sits down for what should be a friendly morning talk show chat, only to find himself under attack by a host who seems determined to tear him apart on live television? In just 37 seconds, Joy Behar would say something so shocking, so completely out of line, that it would end Blake Shelton's interview before it even really began. Blake Shelton walked onto The View set that Tuesday morning with his usual easygoing smile. He was there to talk about his new album, maybe share some behind-the-scenes stories from The Voice, the kind of lighthearted conversation that morning show viewers love. The audience applauded warmly as he took his seat at the curved desk, adjusting his cowboy hat and flashing that famous grin. "Well, look who we have here," Joy Behar said, not even waiting for the applause to die down. "Blake Shelton, everybody, country music star and professional heartbreaker." There was something in her tone already. Not the usual playful banter you'd expect from a morning show host, but something sharper. Blake's smile flickered just slightly, but he kept things light. "Well, I don't know about heartbreaker," Blake replied with a chuckle. "I think I'm more of a heartmender these days." "Oh, really?" Joy leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Is that what you call it when you leave a trail of broken relationships behind you?" The other hosts exchanged glances. This wasn't how interviews usually started on The View. Whoopi Goldberg cleared her throat, clearly trying to redirect the conversation. "Blake, tell us about your new album," Whoopi interjected. "I understand you wrote some very personal songs for this one." "That's right," Blake said, grateful for the lifeline. "This album is probably the most honest I've ever been in my music. It's about growth, about learning from your mistakes, about becoming a better person." But Joy wasn't done. She had that look in her eyes, the one regular viewers of The View knew meant trouble was coming. "Mistakes," Joy repeated, practically spitting the word. "Is that what you're calling your divorce from Miranda Lambert now? A mistake?" The studio went quiet. Even the camera operators seemed to tense up. Blake's smile disappeared completely now. "Joy, I think we should focus on the music," Blake said carefully. "That's what I'm here to talk about." "But your personal life is part of your brand, isn't it?" Joy pressed on. "The good old boy from Oklahoma who can't seem to keep a woman happy? Excuse me?" Blake's voice had changed now. Gone was the easygoing country charm, replaced by something much colder. Sarah Haynes jumped in, trying to save the interview. "Blake, your fans are really excited about your upcoming tour. Can you tell us about that?" But Joy was like a dog with a bone. She leaned back in her chair with a smug expression. "I'm just saying, maybe the problem isn't with the women in your life. Maybe the problem is with you. Maybe country music fans need to stop idolizing men who treat women like disposable objects." The audience gasped. This had gone way beyond the usual pointed questions the guests on The View expected. This was a personal attack, and everyone in that studio knew it. Blake's jaw tightened. His hands, which had been resting casually on the desk, were now clenched into fists. "You know what, Joy?" Blake said, his voice deadly calm. "I came here as a guest on your show to talk about my music and connect with fans. I didn't come here to be ambushed by someone who doesn't know the first thing about my life or my relationships." "Oh, but I know plenty," Joy shot back. "I know you were married to Kaynette Gurn for 3 years before you threw that away for your career. I know you left her heartbroken while you chased fame in Nashville." Now Blake was really angry. His face had turned red, and his southern accent was getting thicker with every word. "You have no right to talk about my first marriage," Blake said, his voice rising. "You don't know what happened. You don't know what we both went through. And you sure as hell don't have the right to sit there and judge me on national television." The other hosts were looking anywhere but at Joy and Blake. Whoopi was frantically gesturing to the producers off camera. This interview was spiraling out of control fast, but Joy seemed to be enjoying herself. She had that cruel smile that her critics knew all too well. "I have every right to ask tough questions," she said. "That's what journalists do. We hold public figures accountable for their actions." "Journalist?" Blake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Lady, you're not a journalist. You're a bully with a microphone who gets her kicks from attacking people who can't fight back." The audience was completely silent now. This wasn't morning television anymore. This was a full-blown confrontation between two people who clearly couldn't stand each other. Joy's fake smile disappeared. Now she looked genuinely angry. "How dare you call me a bully?" she snapped. "I'm asking legitimate questions about your pattern of behavior with women. The American people have a right to know what kind of man they're supporting." "Pattern of behavior?" Blake stood up now, towering over the desk. "What pattern? Being human? Making mistakes and learning from them? Having relationships that don't work out like every other person on the planet?" "Sit down, Mr. Shelton," Joy commanded, like she was scolding a child. "No, I will not sit down," Blake fired back. Not while you sit there and attack my character based on tabloid gossip and your own twisted view of relationships. Whoopi tried one more time to intervene. Okay, let's all take a breath here and maybe start over. But it was too late. The damage was done, and Joy wasn't finished yet. Your twisted view? Joy's voice was getting shrill now. I'm not the one who abandoned a loyal wife to chase after other women in the music industry. That was it. That was the moment Blake Shelton had enough. That's it, he said, pulling off his microphone. I'm done with this garbage. But Joy wasn't about to let him have the last word. As Blake started to walk away, she delivered the blow that would end her career at The View forever. Running away, Blake? Just like you ran away from every woman who ever loved you? Blake stopped dead in his tracks. He turned around slowly, and the look on his face was something the studio audience would never forget. The silence that followed Joy's words was deafening. Blake stood frozen at the edge of the set, his back still turned to the panel. When he slowly pivoted to face Joy Behar, his expression was unlike anything anyone had ever seen from the usually jovial country star. What did you just say to me? Blake's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried across the studio like thunder. Joy, realizing she had crossed a line even by her own standards, tried to backtrack. Blake, I was just… No. Blake cut her off, walking back toward the desk with deliberate steps. You said I run away from every woman who ever loved me. You want to go there? Let's go there. The other host sat in stunned silence. Whoopi was making frantic cutthroat gestures to the production team, but the cameras kept rolling. This was television gold, even if it was a complete disaster. You sit there every morning, Blake continued, his voice getting stronger with each word, and you judge people you've never met. You tear apart relationships you know nothing about. You make cruel jokes about people's personal pain because you think it makes you look smart. Joy's face was turning pale. She had never seen anyone fight back like this on her own show. But let me tell you something about running away, Joy, Blake said, now standing directly in front of her. The only person running away here is you, running away from taking responsibility for the hateful things you say. Now wait, just a minute, Joy started, but Blake wasn't finished. You want to talk about my first marriage? Fine. Kaynette and I got married when we were kids. We grew apart. It happens to millions of couples, but we handled it with respect and dignity, something you clearly know nothing about. The audience was riveted. They had come expecting light morning entertainment and instead were witnessing the most dramatic confrontation in daytime television history. And Miranda? Blake continued, his voice cracking slightly with emotion. Miranda Lambert is one of the most talented, strongest women I've ever known. Our marriage didn't work out, but that doesn't mean either of us failed as human beings. It means we're human beings. Joy tried to interrupt again. Blake, if you would just let me. Let you what? Blake exploded. Let you tear apart my life some more for your entertainment? Let you make jokes about people I care about? Let you sit there in your ivory tower and judge everyone else while you hide behind your desk? Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Sunny Hostin was staring at her hands. Even the usually unflappable Whoopi Goldberg seemed at a loss for words. You know what your problem is, Joy? Blake said, leaning on the desk now. You think because you have a platform, you have the right to say whatever you want about whoever you want. You think you can hurt people and then hide behind the excuse that you're just doing your job. I am doing my job, Joy said weakly, but her usual fire was completely gone. Your job? Blake laughed bitterly. Your job is supposed to be informing people, entertaining them, maybe making their morning a little brighter. Instead, you use your position to bully guests and spread negativity. The studio was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Even the production crew had stopped moving around. You want to know about patterns, Joy? Blake said, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper again. Let's talk about your pattern. How many guests have you attacked over the years? How many people have you humiliated for no reason other than your own amusement? Joy's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. For perhaps the first time in her television career, she was truly speechless. I've been in this business for 20 years, Blake continued. I've done hundreds of interviews, thousands of shows, and never, not once, have I been treated with such blatant disrespect by someone who calls herself a professional. Whoopi finally found her voice. Blake, maybe we should all just… No, Whoopi, Blake said, but his tone was gentler now. I respect you. I respect Sarah. I respect Sunny. But I will not pretend that what just happened here is okay. He turned back to Joy, who was now looking down at her notes, unable to meet his eyes. You owe me an apology, Blake said simply. Not because I'm a celebrity or because I'm a guest on your show, but because I'm a human being who deserves basic respect. The seconds ticked by. The entire studio held its breath, waiting to see if Joy Behar would do the right thing. Finally, Joy looked up. But instead of the apology everyone expected, her face was twisted with defiance. "I don't owe you anything," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "You're a public figure. You make millions of dollars. Part of that deal is answering tough questions." Blake stared at her in disbelief. "Tough questions? Is that what you call personal attacks and character assassination?" "I call it holding you accountable," Joy shot back, some of her old venom returning. "You country music stars think you can just charm your way through everything, but some of us aren't buying it." "Country music stars?" Blake repeated, his anger flaring again. "What is that supposed to mean?" Joy's mask was slipping completely now. "It means I'm tired of pretending that your good old boy act is genuine. You're all the same, conservative, backwards thinking, treating women like." "Stop." Blake's voice was like a whip crack. "Just stop right there." But Joy was on a roll now, her true feelings pouring out. "Like what, Blake? You don't like hearing the truth about your industry? About how you treat women? About your political views?" "My political views?" Blake was incredulous. "What do my political views have to do with anything? I'm here to talk about music." "Everything is political," Joy declared, "and your silence on important issues says everything about who you really are." The other hosts were horrified. This had gone from a personal attack to something much worse. Joy was revealing the real reason behind her hostility, and it had nothing to do with Blake's personal life. "So that's what this is about," Blake said, understanding dawning in his voice. "You don't like me because of where I'm from, because of what you think I believe. You decided before I even walked on this set that you were going to tear me apart." Joy's silence was answer enough. "You're not a journalist, Joy," Blake said, his disgust evident in every word. "You're a bigot." The word hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Bigot. Joy Behar's face went from red to white in an instant. The audience gasped collectively. Even the cameramen stopped what they were doing to stare. "How dare you?" Joy whispered, her voice trembling with rage. "How dare you call me that word?" "Then prove me wrong," Blake challenged, crossing his arms. "Explain to me how attacking someone based on where they're from and what you assume they believe isn't bigotry." Joy's hands were shaking now. She looked around the table desperately, but her co-hosts were offering no support. Whoopi was staring at the ceiling. Sarah was examining her fingernails. Sunny looked like she wanted to disappear entirely. "You don't know what you're talking about," Joy said, but her voice had lost all its power. "I know exactly what I'm talking about," Blake replied calmly. "I've dealt with people like you my whole career. People who hear my accent and see my hat and think they know everything about me. People who decide I'm their enemy before I even open my mouth." The studio was completely silent, except for the hum of the cameras. This had gone beyond entertainment. This was a real moment of truth playing out on live television. "You came after my marriages, my relationships, my character," Blake continued. "But the real reason you hate me is because I represent something you can't stand. Small-town values, traditional music, people who don't think exactly like you do." "That's not true," Joy protested weakly. "Isn't it?" Blake asked. "Then why did you ambush me the second I sat down? Why didn't you ask me about my music, my charity work, my mentoring of young artists on The Voice? Why did you go straight for the personal attacks?" Joy opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had been caught red-handed, and everyone in that studio knew it. "You're everything that's wrong with television today," Blake said, his voice filled with disappointment rather than anger now. "You take a platform that could be used to bring people together, to celebrate creativity and success, and you use it to spread division and hate." "I don't spread hate," Joy said desperately. "I ask tough questions." "Tough questions?" Blake shook his head. "You want to know what a tough question is? Ask me about how I've worked to support young artists. Ask me about my foundation that helps kids in rural communities. Ask me about overcoming addiction and rebuilding my life. Those are tough questions that actually matter." The other hosts were nodding almost unconsciously. Even they could see how badly Joy had handled this interview. "Instead," Blake continued, "you chose to attack my personal relationships and make assumptions about my beliefs. That's not journalism. That's just cruelty." Joy tried one last desperate gambit. "The American people have a right to know about the personal lives of public figures." "No," Blake said firmly. "The American people have a right to honest, fair reporting. They have a right to entertainment that doesn't come at the expense of basic human decency. What you did here today serves no one except your own ego." At this point, Whoopi finally stepped in, but not to defend Joy. "Blake, I want to apologize to you on behalf of this show. Whoopi said, her voice heavy with embarrassment. "This is not how we normally conduct interviews, and it's not how guests should be treated." "Thank you, Whoopi," Blake said genuinely. "I've always respected you, and I know this isn't your fault." But Joy wasn't finished. Her face was purple with rage now, and she was beyond caring about consequences. "Don't you dare apologize to him," she snapped at Whoopi. "He's the one who called me a bigot on national television, because that's what you are," Blake said simply. "And deep down, you know it." That was the final straw. Joy shot to her feet, knocking over her coffee mug in the process. "Get him out of here," she screamed at the producers. "Get him off my show right now." "Your show?" Blake raised an eyebrow. "I thought this was The View, not the Joy Behar show." "Security!" Joy was yelling now, completely out of control. "I want him removed from this building immediately." Two security guards appeared at the edge of the set, looking confused and uncomfortable. They had never been called to remove a guest during a live taping. Blake looked at them and smiled sadly. "Don't worry, gentlemen. I was leaving anyway." He turned to address the other hosts one final time. "Sarah, Sunny, Whoopi, it was a pleasure meeting you. I'm sorry this had to happen in front of you." Then he looked directly into the camera that was focused on him. "To the viewers at home, I want you to know that this is not what America looks like. This is not how we treat each other. We can disagree about politics, about music, about anything, and still show each other basic respect and kindness." Joy was still screaming at the security guards, but they were hesitating. Removing a guest during a live taping was unprecedented. "The security guards don't know what to do," Blake observed to the camera, "because this situation is insane. But I'll make it easy for everyone." He walked over to where his cowboy hat had fallen during the confrontation and picked it up, dusting it off carefully. "I came here to share my music with people who might enjoy it," he said, settling the hat back on his head. "Instead, I got a masterclass in how not to treat another human being." With that, Blake Shelton walked off, the View set with his head held high, leaving behind a panel of stunned hosts, a shocked audience, and one very red-faced Joy Behar, who had just revealed her true character to millions of viewers. As the cameras finally cut to commercial, the only sound in the studio was Joy's heavy breathing and the uncomfortable shuffling of everyone else who had witnessed the most dramatic meltdown in daytime television history. Blake Shelton had come to The View to promote his album. Instead, he had exposed the ugly truth about what happens when media personalities let their personal biases override their professional responsibilities. The interview was over, but the conversation it started would continue for years to come.